Law 20 of the 48 Laws of Power. First things first, let's track through some definitions so that when we say what the text is saying, and I say that it's foolishness to bring into the realm of reality and fact, you and I can be on the same page. Let's look at it. Law 20 of the 48 Laws of Power says, do not commit to anyone. Okay? It is the fool who always rushes to take sides. Do not commit to any side or any cause but yourself. By maintaining your independence, you become the master of others, playing people against one another, making them pursue you. Do not commit to anyone. So let's look at some definitions real quick, just 5. Commitment is defined by the state. Let's let the truck pass by. I don't want you to miss the definition. Commitment is defined by the state or quality of being dedicated to a cause, activity, or etc. Dedicated. Let's look at dedicated. That's a big word inside of that definition, and it's one that we think we know the definition of, but we might not. Dedicated. To be dedicated to something is to be devoted to a task or purpose, having single-minded loyalty or integrity. Single-minded loyalty or integrity. So this isn't something that you put on your list of things to do and accomplish. This isn't something that you prioritize. This is the totality of your focus and your attention. This is where you have grown to when you have come to the realization that you can't really divide your attention effectively as you think you can. Like, you've been under the impression that you can multitask, that you can have multiple interests, that you can have multiple things that you're investigating and pursuing and discovering and experiencing and learning of. And that's just not true. When you focus on one thing, when you give one thing your attention, everything else pays the cost of your attention going in the direction that it's going. Your life, your energy, your source is all flowing to that one thing that you're focusing on. And if you're focused on a bunch of different things in your head, then what you're really focused on is your head. What you're really focused on is the legion of voices that have led you to believe that there's a bunch of different topics going on inside of your head, a bunch of different dialogues, and you're effectively being a part of all of them, grabbing the data and calculating what each and every conversation entails, includes, and finding the benefit for yourself in each case. It's insanity. That's absolute baloney. But it's what you've been living. It's what you and I have been taught that it is to be mindful, to be thoughtful, to be considerate, to not be sporadic, to take thought before you act. Dedicated. Have you been dedicated to anything? Have you been devoted to anything to the point that you can honestly say that it is your single-handed focus? Can you honestly say that you have given yourself to anything other than the pursuits that you hear and entertain on the inside of you that you think are going to take you to the imaginary places that you have seen yourself living? You have a dream for yourself. You have ambitions for yourself, goals for yourself. You come up and concoct strategies for yourself, within yourself, that serve yourself. You need to utilize other people. So you go and make connections with other people that you think will serve and benefit yourself in your selfish pursuits. They drop the ball. They're not there when you think they should be. You replace them. You drop them and you find somebody else to handle the role of helping you accomplish your selfish pursuits for yourself better. And then you look at a law like Law 20 that says do not commit to anyone, because committing to them may have negative effects on you and your ability to exercise the power that you have fought hard to have over other people, and you say, yeah, I need to implement that in my life. Implement what? It's how you've been living already. It's how you spent every day of your life, as you have harbored all of these desires and dreams for yourself that you were not willing to pay the consequence and work and effort towards, weren't willing to apply the universal truths, weren't willing to forget the jargon and the absolute fabrications, the absolute fantasies and fairy tales that were given to you in the past of how you accomplish things that you have seen by experience do not work. The way Granny said, do it, pray and let it alone, is something that we have tried countless times, and clearly we have seen that when we ask amiss and we get amiss. So we need to clean this up. We can't keep operating on Granny's understanding if we don't want to keep getting Granny's effect. I love my grandmother, but I don't want to cap what my grandmother capped. To be honest, what satisfied my grandmother is absolute torturous for me. For me to live in a small house where I see the same 15 people every 2 days when they come by and visit, and I go to the same 6 locations that are within a 10-mile radius of my house, is torture for me. That's a prison for me. And you've been trying to make other people's way of life fit you. You too big for their clothes. You too big for you might be too small. Either way, you should only want what is for you. But when you get it in your head that somebody else has something that you want, you'll begin to study the methods that they used to acquire it and try to apply it to your life, thinking that it's going to have the same effect for you, and it's going to run you in an absolute circle. Because you can see what they did with their hands, you can see what they did with their feet, but you can't see what they did in their head. You don't see the nights that they sat impatiently crying to accomplish the very thing that they finally did obtain. And you didn't notice because you weren't there to see that it wasn't until they started to embrace what they wanted as something they already had that they were able to experience the gift of it being provided. You got an ear to hear, catch that. But seriously, sincerely, look at it real quick. I mean, Law 20 is nasty work. It is the fool who always rushes to take sides. That is absolutely factual. The fool does no investigations, no research, has no ability to unbiasedly analyze information and see the truth in it, dissect the facts from fiction, and apply what has benefit and is edifying, and disregard what is detrimental. The fool has no ability to do that. The fool rushes and takes sides, often based on what seems to be most beneficial to their selfish pursuits. Do not commit to any side or cause but yourself. That's what trips me out. Do not commit to any side or any cause but yourself. What have you ever been committed to other than yourself? When you grew sick in worry and depression, and you racked up defeat and loss and lack, and you sat inside of illusions, and you became delusional, and you became one who was abusive to the ones who was trying to love and extend goodness towards you, what were you committed to in those moments other than yourself? What could you attribute the sickness that you developed on the inside of you to other than the selfish attention that you were pouring on who you thought you were? Because that's the thing. Do not commit to any side or cause but yourself isn't even negative advice. If we bring that into the conversation of reality and truth, it is actually factual. But inside of the context of where Robert Greene is taking the statement, it is not, because we are not who we think we are. Robert Greene is telling us to do not commit to any side or cause but yourself. And his version of yourself is referring to your pursuits, your personality, your tangible belongings, your special circle of individuals that you give exclusive love to, even though there is no way to divide love. So whatever that is you're extending to them is not love, it's something else that's probably poisonous. And we be talking about it, but I don't want to get off course of where we at today. But you know nothing about being committed to anyone or anything until you escape the darkness and ignorance that has fallen on you, where you think you need to pursue goodness or you're gonna be left out. All you do is calculate how the connections with other people can benefit you. You see other people as literal stairways for you to step on and climb up in the desperate pursuit of status and stature on the physical plane, until you come into true knowledge, until the spirit realm, until the inside of you, where all things flow from, becomes your focus. Then you can focus solely on who you are in truth, because who you are in truth is the origin of everything that you experience in the physical. So if you put all of your focus on who you are in truth and you disregard all of the lies of who you have thought you were to be, you won't have to worry about things like enemies, oppositions, obstacles, mountains to be moved. You won't have to worry about protecting yourself from those who want to devour you, those who want to lead you to your detriment. You won't have to worry about being deceived, manipulated, being lied to, being taken in the wrong direction, because you don't know who your source is. You don't know who to look to and turn to when you need an answer. So you have depended on all of these outside entities that seem to have produced success for themselves. No, you don't fall into that category anymore. You have developed an understanding of truth. You have stopped taking the counsel of yourself. Your opinion is no longer reliable. Your assumptions are no longer reliable. Your friends' opinions are just as unreliable as your own. Your friends' understanding and interpretations are just as reliable as your own. You don't even jump on YouTube or open up a book or listen to a preacher or listen to a scientist and blindly believe them. Words stimulate you to go and find and discover the truth of things for yourself, so that you can be one who can honestly say, by experience, knows. You were designed to be a knower. You weren't designed to be a thinker. You've been celebrating the fact that you've been a thinker, but thinking produces absolutely nothing but more thoughts, which leads oftentimes to more illusions and more fear. I used to say all the time that my biggest fear was being celebrated for being a thinker alone. Understand, if somebody comes to your funeral and they stand up and they say, man, that kid has some great ideas. There's absolutely nothing in the tangible. There's nothing physical. There's nothing that you produced that you can honestly say, I built that. I constructed that. I created that. I played a part in that. I contributed that to society. Nothing but a bunch of ideas. Anybody can do that. We all have vain imaginations that we oftentimes get caught staring at and trying to pass off on other people. But what did you create? Another knee slapper. If you allow people to feel they possess you to any degree, you lose all power over them. There's a ton of people who have never cracked this book open who live by this principle strongly. The issue that most people have taken with what a lot of people are calling relationships today is the belief and partnership with concepts such as this. If you allow people to feel they possess you to any degree, you lose all power over them. So having the desire to have power over you, having the desire to be able to influence your actions, your choices towards what it is that you give and extend towards me, I would hate for you to feel comfortable and secure in our partnership and our connection, because then you just may stop operating out of the fear that I'm getting ready to leave, and just may stop doing things you don't want to do that are benefiting me. By not committing your affections, they will only try harder to win you over. Stay aloof, and you gain the power that comes from their attention and frustrated desire. And that's true when you're dealing with somebody who's insecure and still operating out of an ignorance of the value of themselves. See, the only people that are going to chase you are the people that you don't even really want to be connected to. The only people that are going to chase you are the people who think that they need you. And if they think that they need you, they're going to become a burden that you can't even satisfy. Everybody's not going to play this game with you. Some people are not going to try to win you over. See, I'm one of them. I know if you like me, enjoy me, or want me to engage with you, it's because you have that desire that you have developed within yourself. And there is nothing that I have done, nothing that I can do to impregnate you with this desire. It is solely your choice. And if you choose to disregard everything I say, if you choose to paint a false narrative of me, if you choose to disregard all the factual information of my goodness and label me whatever else, it is not my loss. It is not me who will suffer for this. It's you who will pay the cost of disconnecting yourself and judging one who is a pure reflection of everything that is true of you and good of you. And all of these judgments will return back to the sender. Understand, I will not have to live under the weight of what you think I am. You will have to live under the weight of what you think I am. I will not spend time and exhaust energy and drain attention giving thought to the imaginary version of me that you have painted. But you are wasting your valuable time. You are trading the enjoyment of operating in splendor for the hateful, spiteful, bitter experience of lying to yourself about another person. So let's jump into A Course in Miracles and see what it has to say about commitment. The ego thinks it is at an advantage not to commit itself to anything that is eternal. Why? Because the eternal must come from God. What's wrong with that? Eternalness is the one function the ego has tried to develop but has systematically failed to achieve. The one thing that the ego is trying to do at all times is survive eternally. Your ego and your goal for yourself when you operate within the ego is always survival. It's always trying to figure out what I can do, what I can say, who I can connect to, and what I need to stay away from so that I can preserve the experience that I'm familiar with that I call myself. Yeah. The ego compromises with the issue of eternal just as it does with all issues touching on the real question in any way. The ego is compromised. The ego is compromised. The ego only knows compromise. Anything you run through the ego will be a compromise. If you have a financial problem, your ego will not tell you to rely on the true abundance that flows through you and to call it to yourself. Your ego will tell you to listen to the many people around you and the many voices within you telling you to connect yourself to somebody that is willing to pay for your time and exchange your time for money so that you can eat. And your ego will even call you to misinterpret and misapply scriptures of true concepts, like if a man doesn't work, he won't eat. Watch this. By not seeing you as you are, it can see itself as it wants to be. Aware of its weakness, the ego wants your allegiance, but not as you really are. The ego therefore wants to engage your mind in its own delusional system, because otherwise the light of your understanding would dispel it. The ego needs you to partner with it, believe in it, and be influenced by it, so that the true light within you does not expose it as the phony pretender, misleading and misguiding you in ignorance that it is. It wants no part of truth, because the ego itself is not true. If truth is total, the untrue cannot exist. Commitment to either must be total. They cannot coexist in your mind without splitting it. If they cannot coexist in peace, and if you want peace, you must give up the idea of conflict entirely and for all time. This requires vigilance only as long as you do not recognize what is true. While you believe that two totally contradictory thought systems share truth, your need for vigilance is apparent. So it is your partnership in the truth of the lie called evil, attack, lack, confusion, chaos, disturbance, obstacles, challenges, and absolute rejection that keeps you at war, experiencing both the truth of peace and abundance that flows to you, through you, and obstacles and challenges that create chaos around you that you can't help but suffer through. And that's why you live unstable in all of your ways, because you find yourself split when it comes to what you believe, which is why we are called to throw out every belief that we have and rely solely on the knowledge of truth. It is not about what we believe, it is about what we know. And what we know is not based on what we think, assume, or were told. It is based on the truth that is unchanging, that is only discovered when we have forgiven ourselves, come to ourselves, embraced ourselves, and see that I am is within, constantly engaging and connecting and extending the infinite abundance of knowledge, love, and goodness from within. Want another one? We can keep going. Your mind is dividing its allegiance between two kingdoms, and you are totally committed to neither. Your identification with the kingdom is totally beyond question except by you when you are thinking insanely. What you are is not established by your perception. You do not get to decide what you are. You are what you were designed as. You played no part in the construction of the inner makings and inner workings of yourself. You have chose to cling to the false identification and false narrative of who you think you are and who you want other people to think you are, strictly because you feel like you have control over that. But as you can see throughout your day-to-day dealings of trying to get people to partner with you on who you think you are left up to their interpretation and misconceptions of who they think you are, and that doesn't work either. I think it's time that you put down such silly concerns and you begin to concern yourself solely with who you are in reality, not for somebody else. But you should be tired of suffering at this point. You should be tired of people talking about the abundance and the promises and the goodness that you were designed for, that you often find yourself without as you pursue getting other people to see you the way that you see yourself, as you have misperceived who you are in reality. What you are is not established by your perception and is not influenced by it at all. Perceived problems in identification at any level are not problems of fact. The things that you think are issues for you are not issues in reality. They are only issues to the illusionary version of yourself that you have created in the imaginary realm that you have retreated to in the absence of awareness of just how good truth is. So they are not problems. In fact, they are problems of understanding, since their presence implies a belief that what you are is up to you to decide, when we've already determined that in the universal realm of truth, it is not up to you to decide what you are. What you are, who you are, has been established by your Creator, and it's set in stone, reversible by how you act or what you think you are. So I run it all back to connect it. Perceived problems in identification at any level are not problems of fact. They are problems of understanding, since their presence implies a belief that what you are is up for you to decide. The ego believes this totally, being fully committed to it. It is not true. The ego, therefore, is totally committed to untruth, perceiving in total contradiction to the whole spirit and to the knowledge of source. So when you take Law 20's advice and you commit to only yourself in the sense of your own selfish pursuits and your own desires that you need to manipulate and steer others to help you arrive to for yourself to enjoy with those who you decide are suitable for such a luxurious time amongst you, you're fully committed to a lie, fully committed to an illusion, fully committed to untruth. So it's not you committing yourself solely to you, it's you committing yourself solely to a lie. And how could you imagine a person being solely committed to a lie but walking around telling the truth all day? If you're solely committed to a lie, you're going to become a liar, not by choice, but as a natural consequence of partnering with a lie. Understand that it is you rejecting the advice of Law 20 from Robert Greene in the 48 Laws of Power that's going to lead you to the liberation that you have been seeking, even if you haven't grown to the stage of life where you're aware that you want to be free. Understand, you think in the past that you've been committed to yourself, and it's caused you to have a lack of commitment to everyone, everything, including you. But if you commit yourself to truth, you'll find that you'll develop a commitment and a connection to all that is good, and all that is seemingly bad will fall away, because your attention will be drained on lovely, beautiful things instead of being spent on the darkness that you have grown so accustomed to, that you have spent so much time eloquently describing. Lock in.